There we are. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our latest episode of Mornings with Mayesh. It's Yvonne here, and thank you so much for joining us. It is November 11th, Veterans Day. So we would be remiss to say we would do the show without saying thank you to all of our past, present, and future veterans. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything that you do for this country. Today on the show, I have some of my very good friends, Nicole Clarey of Nicole Clarey Photography and Logan Martin of Good Notion. And we are going to be chatting about visual storytelling using photography and videography. Super exciting about this because there's Remy. He's coming to say hello, of course, because the show's starting. He hasn't been in my office all day long, but of course now, because I don't know, maybe it's because he thinks I'm talking to myself and I need to pet him. I think maybe. But I'm really excited about this topic, guys, because it's so important, especially nowadays. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But while we are getting started, please say hello. Let me know where you are from. I can see Jennifer. Good morning, Brandy. I have David, Serini. Hey, girl, how are you? I know Serini loves Nicole and Logan. They came with us to our trip to Ecuador. It was amazing and beautiful. And if you guys haven't seen the photos and the videos from that trip, make sure that you check that out. So keep it coming. I also wanted to mention, if you have questions for Logan or Nicole while we're chatting, go ahead and put those in the comments. We'll definitely try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. And also, if you missed the replay, or if you're listening to the replay, or you missed the live, that's what I meant to say in the beginning, everything will be posted up on our blog. So obviously the replay on Facebook, or if you're listening on YouTube, hey guys, that will be available relatively quickly right after the show ends. They just have to process the video and it'll be there. But I will be posting the replay, the podcast, and the show notes on our blog. So be sure to check that out. And with that, I am going to bring on Logan and Nicole. Hey guys.
Hi.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. I cannot believe that, first of all, that you guys haven't done this with me yet. I've been doing this for a very long time. And so I'm just glad to be rectifying that now, and just super excited to share all of your big, beautiful brains with everyone, because you guys are so passionate about what you do. You're so amazing at what you do. And again, I'm just excited to share you guys with our community. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, thanks,
Thank
friend.
you. Oh,
So before we get into our conversation, can you guys just take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey that has brought you here today? Nicole, you want to go
Nicole.
first?
Okay. Hi, guys. I'm Nicole. I actually currently live in Ohio right now. My husband's in the military, and so good old Ohio friend over here with Yvonne. But I first started out, well, I've always loved photography, but I actually went to school for it. I have my master's in art, and I taught for a semester as a grad student in film, so darkroom film. And I thought I would go into teaching, and I did a wedding for a friend, and it kind of just snowballed after that. Started just getting more and more clients, and was able to move from California out here to Ohio with that. And along the way met Yvonne and the wonderful Mayesh team, and was able to travel around with them and did their workshops. And obviously 2020 has brought a very weird year to a lot of us in this community.
Yes.
So I have not gotten to see my Mayesh friends in a long time, so I'm super excited to be here today. But that's kind of where I am now. I've had my business for 8 years now, and just hopefully next year, it all back up. But that's kind of how I got to where I am now, and what I'm doing, and I shoot a little bit of digital and film. And so if you have any like photo questions, like I'm the one to ask today. So although I'm sure Logan could also answer your questions, but just let me know like along the way, like what kind of tips and tricks you guys need, no matter like how basic or extravagant you're thinking. So
Very good. Thanks, Nicole. Logan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm going to smash the interview norms really quick and go ahead and dive right into mental health, which is to say, I have extreme ADHD and I do not remember the question you asked. What was the first question?
It's all good. I just want you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be here today. Real short history of Logan Martin.
I'm nailing it so far. Good. Okay.
crushing it.
I'm usually on the other side of the camera, way more comfortable there.
Yes, I know.
So no, let me go back, and the majority of my life was spent as a full-time musician, actually, and touring around and just playing music, and had 3 kids. And when I watched it was my second son, when I watched him take his first steps through FaceTime, I was like, I think I'm done with this life. So I came home and kind of shut down the touring, traveling full-time life. And in the midst of that world of creativity and storytelling through song, one of the things I picked up was a camera and just started like documenting when I was out on the road and making small videos, 1 for my family to see and 2 for whatever, 7 or 8 fans that I had to also see. And so that was kind of where my passion for visual storytelling came. Was it kind of coincided with my lifelong journey of telling stories through music. So when I finished with touring and traveling around and kind of wondering what was next, for me, there was a really natural transition of just, I still want to be a storyteller. And what I truly believe, and it sounded, it sounds more noble and extreme, but I truly believe it is, every person has a really good story to tell. And too many people just don't know how to tell it. They just don't quite know how to put the pieces together in the right way and compose a story that is impactful. And so often people give up on their story or give up on their dream because they think it's not a good story or a good dream. And the truth is, it's just they're not telling it quite right. And if they just do a few, small changes, all of a sudden that story can connect with a lot more people. So I sought out to do that about 5 years ago, created my first company, Tailwind Visuals, to just start telling stories. And in the last 5 years, it's really grown from me and a camera to, me and 6 other people now. And I'm kind of the team lead, creative lead. And now we do everything from video to photo to, brand identity development, graphic design, websites, and everything. So I've kind of moved into more of a team lead role, and I do a little less behind the camera now, which is kind of sad, but I just, for me, it's been a constant evolution over the 35 years of my life of just telling stories.
I love it. So good. So as you guys can see, Nicole and Logan, such a wealth of knowledge, and storytelling is so important. And so before we get into the questions, guys, I had something that I wanted to share. So I already had reached out to Nicole and Logan about doing the show. And then like around November 1st, right, I'm outside, I'm doing my steps, doing my walking and my running, trying to get healthy again. And I decided to listen to Gary V's podcast. And if you guys know me, I love Gary V. He's my guy. But sometimes his podcasts aren't very relevant to whatever I'm, doing, or just sometimes it's like just a bunch of random Q&As, and I don't have time for that. But this particular episode was called "Where is Consumers' Attention Going Right Now?" And it's probably one of my most favorite podcasts that he's done in a long time. And anyhow, his first guest was Kevin O'Leary. He's the star of the ABC's Shark Tank, and he had a great viewpoint that I wanted to share with you guys to kind of frame the importance of what we're going to be talking about here today. So what he said is the following, and I'm heavily paraphrasing so that way it kind of makes sense. He says, this is the digitization. I can't say it. I said it fine when I was practicing. Digitization of America. Now I'm hiring story writers, videographers, photographers, and editors. I'm hiring people all around the world because all of my companies are telling stories on their websites. We have empowered a whole generation of artists who are doing phenomenally well that I would have never guessed. Storytelling, direct communications with your customer, compelling them to watch the 20 to 40-second video that communicates what your product or service is what successful companies are doing. We are spending millions of dollars doing this digital pivot. So pivot, I feel like, is such a word that everyone can relate to this year, especially during 2020. And then just tying it in with the storytelling and talking about videography and photography and the importance of that. Obviously, it's a little bit more than what we're going to be talking about, but I think it's going to be a great start for you guys to kind of up that game. So I'm going to share that link for the podcast for any of you guys that want to listen. And this one was cool because he had a whole bunch of different people on for only 10-minute segments. It was fun. I was actually like, maybe I should do something like that. Could be cool, right? Okay, so with that framework, I just wanted to start with kind of like the basic question, right? That I feel like can help people, and it's not basic, and it probably can be a little bit complicated. But the question that I feel like lots of people are going to want to know are just, what are some tips for florists who want to do some of their own photos and videos? How can they improve it? Whether it's lighting, framing, background, music, voice, etc. I don't know who wants to start with that question, but I think that's a good one to start.
Go for it, Logan.
Sure. So yeah, to kind of hit on that point with Gary Vee, who I have a love-hate relationship with because I can't stand him, but also I think he's brilliant. So. So and I hope that someday people say that about me. They can't stand me, but they think I'm brilliant. So I'm fine with that. But to hit on some of those points, I've talked with you two about this before. I think when we've been on some of our trips, or even to the florists that'll be on those trips with us, this idea of video domination in the market right now. Over 80% of all internet consumer traffic, everyone who's on the internet doing whatever they're doing, over 80% of them are watching videos right now. 8 out of 10 people on the internet right now are watching some form of video, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, or IGTV, Facebook Live. I mean, all those things. It is what people are doing when they're on the internet. And so if you are not interacting with people through video, you are missing out on the lion's share of the market. It's not to say that photo isn't important too. No. So for me, when I talk to people, I say, first and foremost, just do it. Like, don't overthink it. Don't be so concerned with, especially when people started to get into, and I'm sure Nicole can attest to this, when people start getting into photo and video, they gear can become a procrastinator's worst nightmare. Like the idea that okay, I'm not quite ready. Once I get this piece, or once I get this camera, once I get this lens, or once I finally get the microphone I want, or once I get the lights, then I'll finally do it, because I don't want to do it before I have all that. And you keep accumulating and never actually just taking the leap. So my first thing is just start doing it with whatever tools you have, because the story can be told with whatever tool is in front of you. And the story is what matters most. So start there, start connecting, start utilizing the storytelling techniques of connecting with people, recognizing who they are and what they're looking for, what they need, hitting on those pain points, showing them what you can do for them, all those kind of things. And then start adding in the techniques of, 3-point lighting, and making sure that you have a solid microphone and people can hear you clearly. So those things come later, but my first suggestion is always just start, and don't procrastinate, thinking, once I have the right tools, I can start doing this.
Yeah, I agree. And just to build off of that, guys, I did an episode, I think with Allison Ellis or Amy Nicole. I can't remember. Of course, but we talked about doing video, live video, and just And really, that was our message. Just get started. Whatever you're doing, just start. So that way you can build on that. That's what we did. We just kind of learned as we go. We do things in-house. We use professionals a lot. We do a little bit of everything. But it's just important to just get started and not let all those excuses hold you back. Nicole, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with Logan in that video has definitely like become has come more to the forefront and become more of like a popular tool to use than just still images. Because obviously, like photo and video like capture two completely different things. But photo in that is still like a great way in order for particularly in like this like chat that we're having for florists to still be able to like show their clients and what they do best and be able to still be like a highlight to bring them to the video portion of what they have. And when we were doing all of those Mayesh workshops, like, the one thing we would hit on when we would have this discussion with the attendees that were there is, you need to know how to document your own work, whether it be photo or video. You can't always rely on other vendors to be able to create the content that you want. Sometimes you're paired with vendors that don't have like the same visions as you, the same aesthetic, sometimes not even really the same client. So if you can learn very simple techniques, just with lighting itself, you can create really beautiful images, honestly, with your iPhone, because iPhone is going to put me out of business. Like, what is this? Like the new camera, like the new phone, I think you can shoot in RAW now. I'm like, what is this? Totally insane to me.
It's crazy.
That's a whole nother
improvements of a camera. I used to have a big camera that I would drag around with me, but it was heavy and cumbersome, and and now I hardly ever use it. I always use my
right. You
phone.
use your phone, and I
Yeah.
think that's the same for a lot of people. I really hope you can't hear Kate crying right now.
It's, I mean, babies crying, dogs barking. I'm sure, something's going to happen with Logan. You never know.
Or we had issues pre-show,
Yeah.
so maybe that was Logan's thing.
Yeah,
But
it's real life. It's all good.
Well, can I speak to that a little bit, Nicole? Is that okay? The whole like iPhone thing and it's something. I had a friend who asked me that very same thing. He's like, with the iPhones now, I mean, are you going to have any work anymore? And I've told them, I said, you could give an amateur chef the greatest tools and the best kitchen and the greatest oven, and they're not going to cook a 5-star meal automatically. It does matter the person holding the tool.
Absolutely.
And so
it does.
I think there's this balance, and I'm so grateful that there are tools for everyone now with the iPhone and things like that make video and photo, like high quality video and photo, possible. And I'm not trying to save our jobs right now, but I am saying like there is. I mean, it would be the same with florists. You could give somebody who has no idea what they're doing the greatest, most expensive, most high quality flowers in the world, and then give somebody else some flowers from a Safeway or Fred Meyer or local, supermarket, and the person who knows what they're doing can make something breathtaking out of that. So I think partnership with people who specialize in those areas will always be important. And especially in the flower world, like for me, it's one of the reasons why I adore it so much, is because I get to do what I'm good at, and I get to film amazing things with amazing people who are extremely talented and making this beautiful work of art that I get to film. So that partnership, I think, will always be there. And I think that's one of my favorite things about being a part of like the whole flower industry and world, is because that partnership is going to always have to be there. And I love that.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, in certain instances, like you do need a pro to be able to connect with and rely on to be able to document things for yourself. But I think on a basic level, also, like, people need to be able to like have those like tools for themselves. Like I always remember like going, one thing like we were taught through school is like, you know, you don't need to just do photo or you just do video or, you know, learn a little bit of everything. You add things to your toolbox and you take those tools out like as you need them. And photo and video can just be another tool that's in that toolbox for you. And like I said, like a great way to be able to document your work, you know, as you go through that, as you go through the process of creating a bouquet or a centerpiece, and creating that storyline for your viewers, whether it be on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is.
Right.
But just having like the basic knowledge of, you know, finding really good light, really good window light, being in like a clean space. You know, there's really easy, there's so many like YouTube videos that people can go to and just get like very basic like tutorials on lighting. You can go to a craft store and get, you know, plain white boards and set those up in a studio and just some shooting in. How much better like ultimately like your photos are going to get. So again, going back to Logan saying like you can have a great phone with a great camera, but if you don't know all of these other like aspects of like photography or video, you know, you're not going to get like the full benefit of having that like really great camera.
Yeah, and just to point out, so like mine is a little bit dirty, but look at what I have right next to me. I have
You
foam
have
board.
a whiteboard.
Yeah, I have a bunch of whiteboards. I have big pieces of the white paper. What do you call that? I don't know. The kids use it for crafts and stuff like that.
Just like the big white craft paper.
Yeah. And there are certain places in my house that, like, if I need to take a picture of something, like product pictures and things like that, where we need thousands and thousands of them, and they don't always come at the same time. So I take those at home, and I'll try and use natural lighting, or I have like a lighting kit that I have that I use too, or like I have it on right now, like so it's like just on both sides of me, because it's been dark and dreary here in South Florida. Right. Lots of rain, but those are like just really simple, easy things to, like, again, up your photo game if you're taking pictures at home. And just to speak to that too, guys, because I think that's very interesting. And we do it all. We do a lot on our own. I have a videographer and a photographer that I work with every month on our videos. We always bring someone. Nicole comes to every single one of our workshops. Logan comes to like our special workshops, like all of our international things, and occasionally some of the other ones, because we don't need a video of every single thing that we do there. But I think it's just really important to kind of have that good mix. And I have to say that before we did, like, even like when we first started Design Star, we didn't necessarily do the picture thing. We had a team that did the video and pictures, so that was amazing. But then that didn't always happen, and we didn't always hire a photographer. And so when we started investing in those things, it completely changed our marketing. It gave us so many different options. We weren't stuck using professional stock photography, which, if that's what you need to use to start, that's fine. We did that too. But now, like, it's like a really prideful thing, and we feel so, like, thankful that we can, like, actually show our customers our flowers, designs that were made with our things, our customers, our environment, and really kind of tell that story because it's ours. And so I just think investing in those things was really important for us, and it's really, again, changed the way we can do marketing. But yeah, I love the tip about the whiteboards and the lighting, the, like, background. Logan, what about, like, if people are doing their own videos, like, what about like music and like voice and that type of thing? What do you recommend for people?
Yeah. So I'll give you, and I don't know if I can't add anything over here, but there's a really excellent company called Soundstripe, and they're not super known. They're based out of Nashville. I've been using them for a couple of years. A massive library of music, like massive library of music for an extremely cheap price. Like destroys all the other competitors out there, and just endless variety and styles, set up into fantastic playlists that you can find from inspirational to romantic to wedding to interview to like all these things. They break them up into all these different categories. Great resource. So I would definitely recommend everybody look into that. So yeah, soundstripe.com, my favorite go-to for music. And then yeah, for voice, the nice thing about cameras, I mean, there's or phones, is the audio is okay. We've moved into an era, into an age where there's a lot more forgiveness given to people for like audio quality and whatnot, because most people are doing things on their phone.
Right.
It used to be that like if your audio quality was poor, then you're in trouble. Like you need to have you need to figure that out first and foremost. And now there's a lot of forgiveness in that. I don't have a lot of specifics for what I would use for like an actual mic. What I would say though is there are a lot of small connected mics that you can connect right onto your iPhone that take up hardly any space. You can still hold your phone in one hand, and they'll connect right to the bottom there, and you have this tiny little mic that's like a miniature shotgun mic. Yep. There's also some lapel mics. And there's a lot of companies. What's really cool is there's a lot of companies right now, which is why I'm struggling to come up with specific names, but they're all racing to make wireless lapel, like Bluetooth mics right now. And they're all coming to market in the next few months. I've been keeping an eye on them. There's a couple that I've already purchased to try out. But keep an eye out for that. Maybe if I can find a couple recommendations, I can send them to you to share with people. But those little wireless lapel mics are really, really great too, if you can find a quality one. Otherwise, it sounds like you're 600 feet away, and right. You have no depth to your voice. So, but yeah, for me, I think utilizing quality music to me, and maybe it's because I'm a musician, is almost just as important as the visuals. Because the thing about video and photo is your ultimate goal is to evoke emotion. And that emotion needs to move somebody it needs to compel somebody to do something with that emotion. There's this whole idea of the art of the viral video, which is viral videos don't go viral because of the actual content of the video, but rather how they make us feel. And so when something we watch makes us laugh, we share it because we want other people to laugh and then associate that with us. And then, oh, look, we're funny. If we see something that's really deep and moving, we share it because we were moved and hope that when people see it, they associate that with us. And so video and photo, any sort of visual storytelling, is about evoking emotion that compels people to action. And so if you can add to that with layers of music and soundtrack and quality voiceover work or whatever, if you want something to be moody, then make sure you're lighting it in a way that's moody, and don't have it, just because everything is bright and airy on Instagram, don't blow out your entire scene because you think that's the right mood. If your mood is intense and intimate, then make the mood intense and intimate, match it with the music, and evoke that emotion. But yeah, I'm kind of getting off on a rabbit trail there.
No, but I think music is so important. I mean, my team and I have spent countless hours going through music and trying to find the right sounds that we want to use for things. And that's why I'm always thankful for you, Logan, when you have to do that and not me. Because I know that it can take a long time. And so I just posted in the comments, guys, a video that Logan did for our Ecuador trip, and literally so emotional and so moving, and you'll have the pleasure of literally listening to me crying at the end of the video, because that's how emotional the whole entire trip was. And he just really my foot was broken walking around with Pat, our CEO's like exercise band wrapped around my ankle. It was great. Yeah, but so that's just really great stuff. Any tips from you guys, like in terms of background? Like, what if people don't have like a nice clean background? Like, what if they just don't have that? What can they do?
So, like I had mentioned earlier, like the foam core boards, going to a craft store, even like Target, they're super cheap. It's like the boards you would do crafts on, like presentation boards when you were little. Anything large like that, like larger scale. If you go on Amazon, there are really cheap backdrops that you can get on there, with like the legs. Um, Super cheap. Like nothing has to be overly expensive. You don't have to have like the best of the best, to be able to get what you to get the look and the content that you want.
Right.
A lot of stuff can be makeshift and DIY, and like I said, so long as you're getting like good product, like to use, then your photographs will look good. Again, like you have to think about your lighting, and like Logan mentioned, like the mood. Maybe you don't want light and airy, maybe you don't want a white board, maybe you want something with texture. You can always get fabrics and drape fabric, over the boards. You can really start doing a lot, when you think about things that you can like do yourself and not having to spend like hundreds of dollars like on a styling board or something. I know particularly like with florists and wanting to photograph, like boutonnieres or like smaller details. You'll see a lot of stylists and some photographers like with these really expensive styling boards, but you don't necessarily need that. You can go to a Joann's and look at the velvet fabric that they have there that may like complement, the color palette that you're doing for a certain bride. Same, obviously like same thing, with a different color board or whatever. You just kind of have to go in like with the idea and what you want. I just feel like there's so many like possibilities on what you can do. You just don't have to be stuck on the idea that you have to buy everything like really expensive to make it look good.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah. And then I'll use an example. I have been doing videos for a florist, Ponderosa and Time. She's doing the Ponderosa classroom online. And her studio is actually literally down the hall. So we share a building. And so when we moved into this building, she was like, "Hey, here's an idea I have, and I want to do these videos." And so it was kind of nice because I had to walk 10 feet to set
Nice.
up. Yeah. So, but she had these two videos that she wanted to do, which were she wanted to do these more instructional videos of kind of how to put things together or whatnot, some techniques, and then she wanted to do these meditation videos. So for the instructional video, we wanted it to feel like a cozy workshop. So and what I'm getting at here with backdrop, with background is, again, it all comes back to storytelling. What's the story you're telling with your video? For her, the instructional ones, she wanted it to be something where there was flowers in the backdrop and there were these shelves, and a lot of things were static, and then there were things that she was going to interact with or go grab off the shelf, and then teasing some of the flowers that she'd be using in the arrangement by putting them in the background, making sure that you're never too busy back there that you're pulling focus from what you're doing in front of the camera. And it's always a balance. And for us, that first time it was probably 30 minutes of test shots. And I'm sure Nicole does this a lot too. Like, oh, nope, let's move that thing a little bit. Let's try another one. Let's see how it actually looks. What's the composition? No, you know what? A common mistake is people will put everything in their backdrop on one single plane, and there's no depth or dimension to it. Another common problem is that people will put themselves too close to their backdrop, so there's not a you're casting shadow on whatever's behind you, things like that. So make sure you're far enough away. Make sure that everything's not on the exact same plane. Don't get too busy with it. But again, going back to the mood of that was instructional, and here's welcome to my Ponderosa classroom. This is where I'm teaching. And then for the meditations, we did super moody lighting. We did a black backdrop. The table that she was, creating something on, we covered that in black fabric too. So literally the only thing that you could focus on was the arrangement. In fact, we even had her stand off camera and all you saw was her hands as she was making it. So the meditation was literally just seeing the arrangement grow on a black backdrop in a really moody vibe. So they were for the same client, for the same purpose, in the sense of they were both for her Ponderosa Classroom Online, but they were completely different moods simply by changing the backdrop a little bit, changing the lighting. So I just say that to say there's not like one single rule for what you're doing in your background. Just make sure, again, like music and everything else, what's the mood you're trying to set, and make sure. I always ask myself, whatever's in frame, is it fighting against the story I'm trying to tell? If it is, then get it the heck out of there. Like there's no reason for it to be there, even if it's something that, like a globe that's, behind, I can see it on your shelf back there. Like if that was something where you had it back there and you're like, I really love this globe, it has a lot of sentimental value to me, but it's fighting what I'm trying to do, well, then get rid of it. Like,
right.
So that's kind of those are a few tips, I guess.
Love it. So good. Do you guys have any questions for Nicole or Logan? Make sure you put them in the comments. I'm seeing a lot of thank you and high fives. Good stuff, guys. Let's move on. So, okay, let's pretend that I'm a florist and I've just taken some photos and videos, and now I know that they're not perfect. I know they need a little bit of editing. So how do I edit them? What do you guys think?
Do you want to go first, Logan? No. Okay. Are you going to remember the question by the time I'm done?
We'll remind you. It's okay.
So if you're not very, if you're someone that's not very techie and you don't technically are always using your computer to edit images, that's okay. You can access tons and tons of different kinds of apps on your phone, which I'm assuming majority of you, if you are taking photos, are doing it on your phone. So there are a few that I can recommend. One is called VSCO, VSCO. Just a typical editing app, that gives you a range of more of moody, gritty, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Overlays and stuff that you can put on your photographs. Again, you will want to find a app that works best for you and the editing that you want your photos to be edited in. If you're not going for the dark look, especially if you want, as I've noticed over the years photographing flowers, if you want to make sure that your flowers are actually the color that you want them to be, there are a lot of filters out there that will totally completely change the colors of the flowers. So if you really want to make sure that your arrangement isn't being over edited and the colors aren't changing, that's also going to be a process for you to find out which app has the filters that you do like. But VSCO is going to have more of the moody kind of filters. I also use Color Story, which has a huge range of just really easy filters that you can put over an image. Also, just because you put the filter on the image doesn't necessarily mean it's going to look good either. So definitely, again, trying out a few different types of profiles that different apps provide. Again, just because it's out there doesn't necessarily mean it's good. So when editing it, again, just kind of figuring out what works best for you, and don't be afraid to take different images of the same arrangement in different lighting scenarios, and seeing what lighting scenario you like with a different filter on each of them. It's going to be a little bit of a process, it's not just going to be one click magic button and it's going to be perfect. You are going to have to tinker a little bit with it. If you want to dive in a little bit deeper into your editing, There are apps like the Lightroom app that you can download onto your phone. Also Darkroom, which is very much like Lightroom. And those will give you even more flexibility in your editing, more so than just like putting like a filter over the image. So those are a couple different apps that you can start playing with on your phone. I'm sure Yvonne will. Oh, I can already see her.
I'm working. You guys are making me work.
Even if you just go to like the app store on your phone and you go to like photo editing, there's a million things for photo and video on there. It's just, again, just, trial and error with what you like most and what you feel like is like representing your brand and your product the best.
For sure. I just want to, you talked about it a little bit, but I just want to make sure that when you guys are editing, there's a lot of times we get these pictures and we have no idea where they're coming from. And it's some crazy colored flower that doesn't ever exist. So just be aware that when you put things out there like that, you're kind of setting these expectations for people that don't know anything about flowers.
Right. Someone may think the rose that you posted is actually some orange color when it was actually, in fact, red, but that orange doesn't exist, but because the way you edited it, they think otherwise.
Exactly. So just to be cognizant of that. Logan, what do you think? What do you have to say?
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say on this. Also, fun fact, forgot to plug my computer into a charger. So I'm going to go grab that in a second, or I'm going to go away any second. That's super professional of me. So
it's all good. It's all good.
So I'll go fast with this answer. But the truth is with video, and Nicole already kind of hit on this, which is find what you're familiar with and works for you, and just fine tune your ability to use that platform. Don't hear of a new one and say, well, maybe I should try that, or everyone's doing this one, or whatnot. If you have something that's working and that there's a lot of depth to that software or that platform, then just dig into it and really learn how to utilize it the best way possible, instead of constantly hunting for the next best thing. When it comes to video, there's a ton of things built into Instagram, into Reels, and things that you can do. So, you can kind of fine tune it there. I think from my end, I don't know how applicable maybe some of this advice would be. But there's kind of 3 levels when it comes to like actual video editing outside of phone shooting, which would be like iMovie, and then maybe Final Cut Pro, and then, Adobe Premiere Pro. I would kind of have those be at 3 different levels. The truth is, I still edit everything on Final Cut Pro. I have a lot of people who do Premiere Pro that, are shocked that I haven't, quote unquote, moved up to that. But for me, I spent a lot of time in Final Cut Pro. It does everything that I need to do, and I've learned how to really manipulate and work quickly. And for me, efficiency really matters. So instead of wasting time constantly learning the next new app or thing or software, I get more and more efficient at the thing that I'm already doing. And on top of that, I've put hundreds of dollars into plugins and different things for that. So why waste all that and start over somewhere else? I think to a degree, sometimes in this world, it can be an ego thing. Like, oh, you edit your photos or your video on that, entry-level amateur software. Like, totally. Who cares? If people can't tell and you're killing it with what you're using, just use what you're using. So I don't know if that's great advice in the sense of I can't give you a bunch of like, I'm making your job easier not having to add all these links for, oh, never mind. She's still adding.
He's adding.
Look at that. Make it happen. But yeah, that's, really find what's working for you, and just consistency more than anything. I think the only other thing I would say for video is I used to like to practice where you can go get like video clips that are uncolor graded or color corrected. You can get raw. You can do a lot with photo too, like raw photos that you can just take and practice on. So what I used to do is I would take a raw image, raw video, and then I would find some like movie that I love the look of that movie. I would bring that into, and my goal would be to try to match them up and try to edit until I had it look like that. And I would it was almost like a way to exercise the editing muscle of like, ooh, can I make it look like this? Can I make it look like what they did with the Mad Max movie? Can I make it look like what they did with, so yeah. So I think that's kind of a fun practice too.
Yeah, the more you...
I'm going to grab my charger. Don't be mad at me.
I'm not
Still
mad.
mad at you. Tisk tisk.
So good. Well, and I have a few things to add there too, because we do, like I said, a lot of our stuff in-house, just for like info type of videos, like really quick things that we come up that we want to do. So I use Animoto for that. It's really great just to kind of piece together even like different videos, put in pictures, that type of thing, text overlay. You can have like the horizontal, vertical, square version too. So it's just an easy way to kind of do those kinds of things. If I'm doing like crazy editing and nothing like what Logan does, I use a Chrome plugin called Video. So I put links for all of that stuff, guys. So, and of course I will include all of this in our show notes, so you don't have to be like, oh my God, I got to write all this down. Don't do that. I promise it'll be up on our blog in a couple of days, a day or two. And then with video, the only one I'm familiar with all of those, but of course I'm a dork and I don't have an iPhone like all the cool kids do. I have an Android, so I use what do I use? What is it called? Oh, Photoshop Express. It's an Adobe thing. So I don't know if all of those can be on my phone or not. I know some of them are for iPhone. Some of them may not. I don't know. You're gonna have to go take a look. But I've used that a couple of times. Again, I don't do a ton of photo editing on my own. But when I do, that's what I use on my phone. And then just like the basic editing stuff that comes with my computer. Is that like bad? Like to even say out loud? You do what?
We're gonna disown you now, Yvonne.
I can't believe she does it that way. But yeah, no, I'll just, if I need to crop something or like just lighten things up a little bit because it wasn't whatever, I'll just do it quickly in there and like just no big deal. But I do use my computer a lot more than I do my phone, I have to say, because, that's how I roll. I'm like old school like that, I guess.
I'm old school.
Right? I'm getting older, guys. I'm trying to come to terms with that. Let's see. Just a comment from Jennifer. She says, people are always surprised that I don't use behemoth camera gear or very expensive gear. So that's great. You should like pop in your Instagram so that way we can take a peek at what you do. That'll be fun to share, Jennifer. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on. Not unless you guys have anything else you want to add to equipment, on anything like that. Apps, software, that kind of fun stuff.
No, not really. I mean, I think the behemoth camera gear thing, it's when we were in Ecuador, I had just gotten like this. I just gotten this setup that I've been dreaming of for a long time. I've been working up to getting this setup, and it was massive, and it was. I wish I could have gone back to this thing here and just had that when we were in Ecuador, because that would have been much easier on my shoulders and back and body as we marched around the mountains of Ecuador.
Yes, in high altitude and can't breathe.
Yeah. And actually, so I finally reached that goal of getting this set up. And then just a couple months ago, I sold it all and kind of went back to the basics.
You did?
I did.
Oh my goodness.
For me, it was this realization. So here's what happened. I think maybe this is a good point. I had the setup that I had always wanted, and it was there. And finally, this was going to make the best films and do and I realized I was never shooting anymore because I didn't want to I wasn't taking it out on family trips and filming my kids. It was such a setup to get the external monitor and this big camera and all the things that I realized my joy of just grabbing a bag that had everything in it and going and shooting something and getting creative had just disappeared because it was a burden now to carry all that with me. And I hated that. So for me, I was willing to trade the and for most people, it's a negligible quality difference. Like they're not going to notice a lot. Like I was no longer willing to trade having this setup that maybe was even a little bit of an ego thing. Like,
I was
hey,
gonna
look
say
at
you
me,
wanted
I've
to be
got
the
this
cool
really
kid,
rad.
Logan.
Yeah. And I was willing to trade that so that I could get back to creating more and being willing to just hop out on a moment's notice and capture something. So, yeah.
I think that's a really great story, and just, take it for what it's worth. Sometimes it's, again, the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
A little bit, right? I know, poor Logan lugging all that equipment around.
I was always behind everybody by like 600 yards, just
I
trying
always
to
look
catch
back.
up.
Logan, is he coming? Oh, okay, he's so good. He's coming.
I know.
All the video footage is just from me behind everyone trying to.
I love it. Okay, my next question for you guys is, can you explain what storytelling is from your perspective, utilizing your medium? Logan, I feel like you delved into it. Nicole, you too. But is there anything else that you want to add to it? Like what kind of stories can photos tell? What kind of stories can video tell? Like why? I know we talked about that it's important, but just any other kind of maybe anecdotes that you guys have that you want to share on that topic?
Go ahead, Nicole.
Like, thanks.
Thanks, Logan. I mean, in terms of like what kind of story you can tell any kind of story. It's just the way you perceive it and the way that you document it. Kind of goes back to what Logan was talking about. Like the viral videos that go viral, they make you feel something. So if you have a very static image that doesn't necessarily have a lot of movement, which sounds funny saying like movement in an image, but having some sort of interaction, something very stale may not communicate as well as something, like in terms of, so if we're thinking like about a bouquet, maybe a bouquet just sitting on a chair is not necessarily going to tell the whole story, as opposed to it being held by a bride with her gown on, being able to see those florals that you particularly picked out for her against the textures of her gown that she has brought together. You are adding this piece to this bride's story, so when you're creating, you're adding a piece to this bride story that will hopefully, the photographs that you get back from whoever's photographing it, you will have added to that. And in terms of like documenting it for yourself, kind of the same thing, maybe thinking, obviously you want to highlight the product that you're using, but sometimes just like even just like a little bit of motion can just create an emotion. And if you want that feeling from your clients, like that's something that you can play with a little bit. Like I always think of Kaylee and like her dancing flowers, and
Right.
I always think, like those particular like long stem flowers always brought like a personality to her bouquets, and it wasn't just so like tight and rigid. So even the way that you're creating your flowers really adds to that storyline too.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I know this year with Anthony, he's our design star, and Claire Fagan, she is photographing, while Anna is doing her video stuff. Really great creative team there. But what I love is, we worked with Claire to make sure that she's really helping us tell the story with photos. So it's not just the end product, it's what happens in the beginning and the things that are going into it and the build out of that and all the different personalities of whatever's being designed, right? All the different elements that Anthony's including. We wanted to make sure that's all really captured beautifully, so that way we can tell the story of this one design, and it's not just the finished product, and
Right. It's like
it's
all
all
of the
these
different steps.
yeah.
Right.
Like all the little details, like, obviously you want like a wide frame, but you'd like getting in all to the nooks and crannies of whatever you're trying to showcase, all the different flowers and the elements and the ribbons and all the different types of things. I think that just really makes for beautiful images, and then again helps tell that story better, than just like one single flat image of a bouquet sitting on a chair.
Right.
Yeah. So, speaking directly to florists that might be watching, is remember who you are telling your story to. You are not trying to sell your floral arrangements to other florists. You are trying to. So, what I'm saying is, so let me go back. This is like the meat of what I share with most people, and I'm kind of waiting near the end here to share it. But I think even when I spoke in Miami and I had like 4 minutes to talk about video, this is the thing I talk about. This is what I do. So, so this is my favorite thing to talk about. Every story, every book, every movie, think of your favorite one. They all have the same components. They all have the same 4 components, which is there's a character that wants something and overcomes conflict to get it. Like that is every story, from Gone with the Wind to Finding Nemo. There's a character, there's something that character wants, and then there's a conflict they have to overcome to reach that ultimate goal. And sometimes the ultimate goal is different than what they expected, blah, blah, blah. But those are the 4 main elements of storytelling. And so even when you are doing something on your phone for your business, you're not a filmmaker. I don't think I'm the best filmmaker by any means. I really don't. I think I'm a good storyteller. And I think there's a difference there. And I think people worry about having to be can organize a compelling story that moves somebody with those 4 elements. And so what you have to do is you have to make sure you understand the audience that you're speaking to. Who are they? What do they want? And what's in their way of getting that thing? So whenever you put a video online or post a photo on Instagram or whatever it is, constantly think of that. Who's seeing this? What do they want? And what's in their way? If you know what they want is the most top quality, awe-inspiring, money's no issue, flat then make sure that the story you're telling is to that audience. If you know that somebody is looking for somebody who can take lower quality flowers and turn them into something pretty amazing, and that's kind of your thing, then make sure that's the story you're telling. And don't put your flowers on this insane, $10,000 set with all of these amazing, this table with all these place settings and all this stuff that's over the top that they can't afford, because all of a sudden they're not connecting with that story. So know your audience, know what's in the way of them getting to their dream, their goal, or whatever, and speak to it, and don't stop speaking to it. And so here's the thing. People daydream a third of their waking hours. And what I mean by that is, your mind, for me, it's like 90% of my waking hours. But the average person, a third of their waking hour is spent thinking of something other than the present moment. So it could be daydreaming of a vacation you want to take, or thinking of the laundry you have to do when you get home that day. But a third of our waking hours is spent other than what's happening around us. And through studies, they've discovered the one time people like across the board don't daydream is when they're watching movies or Netflix or shows or whatever. You're pulled into a story, you're placing yourself in that story, and your mind doesn't wander. I mean, even when we read books, when we do other things, our mind can tend to wander. But when we're locked into a visual story, when we're locked into the photo and the video that compels us to something, emotionally moves us, our mind isn't wandering. And what our mind is actually doing is putting ourselves in that story. I use Star Wars a lot. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, but when I watch Star Wars, I'm putting myself in the Millennium Falcon, and I'm imagining what it would be like to fly through space. I'm thinking of that. I'm almost for that. So when you're telling stories with flowers, think of your audience and think, what I want them to feel is I want that story. I want to be in that story. And that florist is the only person who gets me and can give me that story. Like that should be your ultimate goal with everything you post, which is by the end of them seeing this photo or this video, they want to be a part of that story that I just showed them. And now they think, oh my gosh, I have to have that. I'm going to reach out to you. Like that should be your only goal. So all the way going to the back, you're not selling flowers to other florists. You're not, know your audience. What do they want and what's in their way? And then speak to that nonstop.
I love it. Do you guys have a couple more minutes to talk about when to hire a pro and what to look for when you're hiring a pro?
Yeah. I got all the time for you.
Thank you.
I would stay here all day.
Aw, I love you guys.
Now your computer's plugged in, so you can.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, your computer's plugged in. Okay, so obviously we wanted to provide tips and tricks for you guys, for everyone that's watching and listening to the replay and the podcast and everything. But there are times where it makes sense to hire a pro. So, guys, can you talk about maybe what some of those instances are? Where you probably want to go pro rather than and just a caveat, Nicole and Logan both travel, but sometimes that's also out of your budget. So if you can't hire Nicole and Logan,
yeah, I'll go first since I think I've made you go first on every single one, Nicole. Sorry.
Thanks, Logan.
Yeah. So when to hire a pro? For me, and I go back almost to the beginning of our conversation. The idea, so when you're presenting your brand, I think there's two brands at play. There's your business brand, and then there's your personal brand, and that's that's not mind-blowing information I'm giving you. When you are, I always tell people the companies that have the most success are companies who balance authenticity and authority. And it's to say, I'm going to be authentic. I'm going to show you the real me, but I'm also going to show you that I know what I'm doing. And if I balance too far on authentic and laid back and always casual and just me and my phone and front facing camera and whatnot, people might not trust that you know what you're doing, that you pay attention to detail, that that you are top quality. If you go all the way the other way and it's always authoritative, everything's overly professional and almost cold and distant, people still won't trust you because they're not going to be sure that you can relate to them. So there's always that perfect balance. And when you're presenting your brand, what I like to say to people is, remember, for most people, this is their first contact point with you. If they're going to your website, going to your Instagram, this is the first time they're introduced to you and what you do. And if you want that first introduction, that first contact point to be top-notch quality, then find a pro to make sure that your website, the images on your website, make them a cut above the rest. Make sure that when people go there, they are immersed in quality images. And then, something like a branding film, a 2 or 3 minute film where people get to kind of understand what it is that you do. Hire somebody that can film you and let you do what you do and let them do what they do, and see how powerful that combination is. Because if you can fully immerse yourself in the thing that you do best and let somebody else take care of the thing they do best, it's always going to be exponentially better than you trying to tackle both of those things at the same time. So I don't know if I have specific instances, but I would say when you're thinking of initial contact points, when is someone going to come in contact with my brand first? If it's going to be my website, then I want a professional to get those initial photos on there. If it's going to be through my social and I want to do like a branding or introduction film, I want to hire somebody to do that. So that's the first thing they see. Once they get to my Instagram and they see Instagram stories and whatnot, that's the authentic side. That's the me side. That's my personal brand. Let me connect with them. But I think it's always a give and take balance.
Very good. Nicole, you want to add anything?
I don't really have much to add. I feel like that's exactly when you should be, asking for someone that does, like Logan said, like that does their job best, so you can do your job the best.
Right. Exactly. So like On the photography side, I'm thinking like the brochures, like your professional marketing material, like any of the images that you're using for that, you want to be using high quality, professional photographs. And that's like something that we really strive to do. Like someone will send us a picture, it's like some random picture they'll take and can we use this for the, and I'm like, no, we make sure now that we have like a nice library of images, we're like making sure that, and they just print better, they look better, they're cleaner, even though like, Allie and Desi and people on my team take really beautiful iPhone pictures, it's just not the same. And so we don't use those for that type of thing.
Right. Something that you're going, whether you're printing, particularly with printing, I guess, you're going to need somebody that can give you digital files that are very large, because you need very large files for printing. Something like off a phone, or somebody isn't shooting a large file size, it's going to be very pixelated. And so again, like if this is first contact with somebody, you want to give them the best quality so that they can actually see. Plus, like you look more professional when you have those like sharp images.
Right.
So
very good.
And I would just say on that, like, I know the cost of a professional videographer or photographer can be something that feels hard to almost justify. But if you think of those photos or even that video as something that is going to last you the next even 2 years, some people can use them for longer than that. But let's say you do a branding film that's, a few $1,000s or a photo shoot or whatever, and you kind of break it out over 2 years, and you think to yourself, this is a balance that my clients have to do a lot of time. But I kind of lay it out and I say, look at, if this first initial contact point, if you bump your quality up this much because you hired somebody professional to do it, all you have to do is land 2 more clients over the next 2 years, you've paid for it. And so if you start to break it down that way of like, that's a tough initial investment, but I know, Nicole has said, I need to hire a professional to do this, and I really need to do this. Just think about the investment over time, and if that nets you even a couple more clients, and I promise you, having that professional appearance right out of the gate is going to net you more work.
Yes.
Because especially in a visual industry where you are someone who is presenting art to people, and I talk with my friend Katie all the time about this. Florists amaze me because they create art that dies. And I think that's fascinating because, when I was a musician, I'd write a song. That song lives forever. I record it and it's forever. But the flower bouquet is something that is created. It will be enjoyed for a moment and gone forever. And so somebody wants to hire somebody to capture those flowers exactly as they were so that they can live forever. That's a worthy investment. Trust me, like getting somebody like Nicole who can say, I know how to shoot this. I know how to make this last forever. That's a worthy investment. And over time, it's a no-brainer investment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree. And on that note, guys, I feel like that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Nicole and Logan, for joining me. I hope you had fun doing this with me.
Yes.
So much. Let's do it again next week.
You guys want to see us again, right?
Yeah. You guys ready for round 2? No, but this was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. I hope that everyone that's watching got at least one fun, great tip out of this, something that's going to help your business. That's what we're here. That's why we do this. And that's really a wrap. Do you guys have anything you want to share before we go?
I don't think so.
Yeah, just that I hope all this COVID stuff goes away so that the 3 of us can hang out again sometime.
Yes.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So for everyone that's watching, and also in the show notes, if you guys are going to be checking out the blog or the podcast, I have Nicole and Logan's Instagram pages, links up in the comments. I'll be putting them in the show notes for you guys as well. So that way you can connect with them if you would like to do so after the show. So again, thank you guys so much for coming. And that's a wrap. It's been a little bit more than an hour, and I really appreciate you guys spending that time with us. I'm finalizing the plans for my next show, which I believe is going to be next week, next Wednesday, November 18th. I am talking to Allison Ellis because she has a new book, guys. Woo woo. It's called Falling into Flowers, a step-by-step guide to today's modern wedding business. And you guys know Allison has just so much knowledge that she wants to share with you guys. So we're going to talk about her book. I hope you guys can join us, and just stay tuned. I'll be sending out the details very soon. And in the meantime, if you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to shoot them over to me. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Take care, and I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.